Well, this is an introduction to something that has not been done before. I've not introduced the concept or the theory of Rayid body types. All it is that there are nearly an infinite number of body types because no two body types are exactly identical because they're like fingerprints. There are certain similarities. Everybody has ridges, loops, and whorls. That's the terminology for fingerprints. And then we have body types. We see them every day, everywhere we go. But if we're looking at these body types here, we see that there are smaller ones and larger ones and wider ones and not so wide and so on and go. Like, what is the underlying principles that guide the development of body types, particularly over decades? What are the influences? I'd like to introduce you to the concept that each one of these body types has a systematic orientation to one or two primary places in the family tree that's contributing to their body type being smaller or larger, more narrow or wider. So I'd like to show you how this works. And it is a vast amount of fun. I must confess, I've for years have gone to places like malls and sit down and have a cappuccino or something and watch the body types go by and describe the probable orientation of each one of these body types. Now, each body type starts to reflect the kind of lesson or gift that each person has innately and or what their long-term interest might be. For example, if you see somewhat of a larger body type versus a smaller body type, what is their orientation of mind or attraction? What is their law of attraction? What is their relationship possibility? What is their probable iris structure while looking at the body type? Yes, I know, I've looked at a lot of things, and this one fascinates me. So let me show you the difference. Let me show you how to unravel this very big composite down into finer units. Here, let me show you. Here, this starts by breaking it down into two colors. The red being what we would call yang or father side dominant body types, and the yin being mother side dominant types. And we'll divide these into even further subsets. By being able to break them out, you start to get a better feeling for what they're like. So just let me show you, for example, what it looks like if you divide them into only females. And then you'll start to see a composite of how it works. Look at this one. For example, here's typically 6 different body types for women. And then you'll find out that they divide into the blue ones, which have a tendency for more narrow composition, bone structure type. Later on, there's a different insulin resistance type. And then you see that there's 3 other ones which have slightly broader body types. And then you'll begin to break them out again, and we'll go and show you all the composites of how these fit together. This is just an introduction. I'm not going to go into all of the data about each of them. It would take hours, but this gives you a better feeling. Let me show you another one. So for example, in this one, you have the 3 red, which corresponds to father's type, 3 blue, mother's type, meaning that the 3 blue have to do with birth order patterns that correspond to the mother's side of the family. The 3 red have to do with birth order patterns from the father's side of the family. And if we break these body types down for you, you'll find when you understand the language, there's a 2-boy, and then there's a 4-boy, and there's a 6-boy body type on the father's side. Then on the mother's side, you're going to have a 1-boy and a 3-boy and a 5-boy body type. And it's much easier when you spot them in groups that you can see the difference between the father side and the mother side body types. So we're saying that body types are actually a correspondence of the long-term relationship that we might have genetically or epigenetically to specific lines of the family tree. If you have more epigenetic influence affecting you, and you're one of these 3 different body types, it's primarily you being influenced by your father's family. And if you have one of these body types, then you're being primarily influenced by the epigenetics from your mother's side of the family. So we're saying body types are genetic in basis, but they are also capable of being influenced by our long-term social behavior, and we'll discuss that. Here, take a look at another one. Now the picture gets a little bigger. We talk about the 3 red body types from the father's side of the family, and this one's highlighted because we're giving it the qualities of what we call a 2-boy type, fire-oriented, power like a horse, and so on. And those are the birth order composites that are also related to that body type. Then we'll come back and show you the 4 and the 6. But when we say a 2-boy orientation, we can follow the graphic here, and you're now running from the second son up to father's father. So we're saying that the 2-boy body type is more strongly influenced in the epigenetics of father's side of the family. And then later on, we find out that if you're a 2-boy body type, then you have other long-term lessons because these 3 are connected. We won't go into describing it. Remember, this is just an introduction. Let me show you the other 2 for a moment. Here's number 4. So we've highlighted number 4, but when you look at the graphics, you realize that number 4 is from father's side, red, father's father. The great-grandfather on the father's side corresponds to that common body type. And then later on, there are social qualities of what it means to be a 4-boy body type with a orientation to father's part of the family tree. Now, the same thing is true for number 6. Let me show you the number 6. So here's number 6. We did 2, 4, and 6, and we're saying that number 6 is primarily related to father's mother's father. Now, I know this is a lot of numbers, a lot of situation, but when you spend a little time learning the different body types, it really takes, some of the confusion out of seeing something like, just go there for a second. Let me show you this. It goes to this. So it's much easier if you're looking at something like this and you go, my goodness, how do you get clear by just looking at a group? Is it possible to recognize the body type of the men and the body type of the women? And you find some very interesting things that are very consistent. It takes just a little practice, and you can pick out any one of the body types, male or female, and pick out their probable correspondence to which side of the family they're processing their unresolved emotions that are affecting them biochemically, posturally, and so on. So the study of body types just has so much information inside of it. Here's a situation now where you have all the red from the father's side of the family and all the blue from the mother's side of the family, and you've broken it down. So you can literally walk anywhere and look at the body type and probably pretty accurately determine if their epigenetic influence shaping that body type on either side of the family, which side of the family, and specifically the likely grandparent or great grandparent that has the strongest influence. Now, by that I mean we are shaped by all of our grandparents all the time. And later on, we'll show you what happens when you have a number one girl and that specific grandmother was a 5 girl or a 2 girl. You can see all the combinations. But if you ever have stood in the middle of a rapidly moving river and you see how different stones are shaped by different forces of how the water moves, this to me in the body types shows how somebody is processing the life force that's affecting them. There's so much information, but it's very useful if you want to look at yourself or your kids, people around you, to bring your awareness to the influences that are affecting you. This is an introduction to Rayid body types. We'll come back and do it much more thoroughly, I promise. See you later.